One of the simplest and cutest little patterns are creating bows. And you can make them little, like cute little bows as embellishments like this, or you could make them really big and puffy, or however you like. But bows are very, very simple to make, and it's a really great beginner's project. So, let me show you how I made this bow. To make a bow, all you're going to need is some yarn and a hook. Any yarn, any hook is fine. For this little one, I'm going to use worsted weight yarn and a 3.5 millimeter hook. If you wanted to make a really big one, you can also use bulky yarn and a bigger hook, and just follow the same pattern, it'll do the same job. So let's start by creating our slip knot, just like that. Now insert your hook into the knot and tighten it to start. And I'm going to create a chain 15 links long. So start chain 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, now you have a small little line here, and all you're going to do is work one single crochet into each space, and you're going to continue doing that for every row until you have a square that's the size that you want it to be. So for our first row, we're going to skip this first chain space and work into the one next to it. And so from the second chain from the hook, work your first single crochet, just like that. Continue working single crochets into each space. I also think that when you're starting out, this is a great pattern to practice with, because you can practice just making a square, just a regular sample of single crochet stitches, just to kind of get the hang of it. And at the end, you can turn it into something cute and feminine that you can actually use, instead of just having a square that you can't really do anything with. You can also use this with other stitches to give your bow different textures and different looks. But for now, let's just stick with our basic single crochet. Continue working all the way down the line, and be sure to work into the last stitch. Okay, now that we've done our line, you have 14 single crochet in this now. Remember that we skipped the first chain. Now, you're going to chain 1, turn the work around, and then single crochet into each space. Continue working like this until you have a square, or even a rectangular shape. It'll be about 15 rows, but you can do as many or as few as you want. Okay, again, we're at the last space. We're going to work our single crochet, and then chain 1, turn, and then start our next row. I'm going to work the rest of my rows off camera, and then I will be back to show you what to do with your square. Okay, so here is my square. I actually ended up working 13 rows instead of 15, and I decided to stop just because I was happy with the size of it. You can tell if you're going to be happy with the size of yours just by taking it, folding in half, whether you do it horizontally or vertically is up to you, it doesn't really affect it. And then just hold your square and pinch it into a bow shape to see if that's like the size that you want it to be. So if you just have it here and pinched it in the middle, just to kind of get an idea of what it would be like. And I was happy with the size of this bow. So I decided I'm going to bind off right here, and then we can start sewing it together. So all you gotta do is work your last stitch, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail because we're going to use that to sew the edge. Cut the yarn and pull it through. Okay, now just tighten it a little bit, and you can use your tapestry needle to thread that end through the needle, and you can sew the square closed. Not closed, but in a, like a hot dog. What I gotta do is go in between the stitches. Let's go in between the stitches just to close that up. Okay, work all the way down. And once you've sewn this into a tube, you can fasten off this end of the yarn and bind it off. Or just secure it. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for now. You can tie it off and then weave the ends in somewhere throughout it later on. But for now, just leave them. And take another spare length of yarn. I'm going to cut some of the yarn in the same color. Now this is my new yarn. You just grab a piece of it and hold it in the center of your bow. It doesn't have to be exactly center, but just somewhere around the center. It helps if it ends up in like one of the lines between the rows because it helps to tie it, but it's fine if it doesn't. You can be in the middle of the line too. And now just start to pull and wrap this yarn tightly around the center. The tighter you pull it, the more pinched the middle will be and the more bow-like. But you can do it as tight as you want, and you can wrap for as much as you want to. You can do, like for this one, I've only wrapped it 2 or 3 times here. But for this one, let's wrap it a few more times. Whenever you're happy with your wrapping, you can just trim the yarn and tie off the ends, and then you can hide them underneath the actual bow. So I think I'm going to stop here. So I'm going to tie this end together, put a nice double knot to really hold it there. And then I'm going to trim this yarn. Okay. Now I'm going to use my hook to just insert underneath all the wrapping, grab the two tails here, and pull them through. Okay. Now I'm just going to trim them a little bit more. They're definitely secure now underneath the bulk of this, so it's not going to hurt it if I just trim all this extra here. And then you can take your tapestry needle or your hook and just use them to weave in the ends of this like you normally would, like I showed in a different tutorial, and trim that yarn and you are done. Here is your bow. It's exactly the same as this bow, except it's a little bit bigger because I used thicker yarn, and it has more wrappings because I felt like wrapping it for longer. But here you go. These are really nice for accessories for kids. You can hot glue a hair clip onto the back of this, and you can just easily clip it on and off wherever you want in your hair. Or you can glue it to the band of a headband. You can also add it onto the base of a hat to add a little embellishment. Whatever you decide to do, you can make bows very simply and easily in just a couple minutes.